Cool, guys. Nice to meet you. I go by my last name, Punia. It's a little bit easier, but I'm the co-founder and CEO of NashPoint. So I think one thing that's really strange about being a builder in DeFi in 2024 is that blockchains are scaling, but DeFi isn't, which is sort of the exact opposite of what the industry used to be. You know, we have all these high throughput L1s, new virtual machines, data availability layers, and just everything is going faster and faster. But if you look at what's happening in DeFi, and you think about stablecoins as a proxy for organic DeFi activity, it's not that great of a picture. DeFi has about a 5% penetration into stablecoins, compared to like 30% penetration into ETH. That means like 95% of stablecoin holders would rather earn a 0% interest rate than use DeFi. And if you just look at the TVL of stablecoins in DeFi, it's barely a third of where it was just 3 to 4 years ago. And so I think the big existential question for our industry is, why is this happening? Why is everything else scaling except for DeFi? Our perspective at NashPoint is that DeFi is undergoing a fundamental paradigm shift in what it is used for and how it works. In 2016, when I entered the industry, we thought blockchains would be used to create these exotic currencies, and DeFi would be used to finance these unique assets and perhaps this like new borrower base of the unbanked that we would bank. And I think the reality in 2024 is the exact opposite. Like DeFi has become this rail to distribute the dollar globally, which is like the exact opposite of an exotic currency. And we think DeFi will be the primary mechanism by which these like emerging class of dollar holders, like stablecoin holders, will earn a yield. And this is just very different from like how DeFi is set up today. So when we think about the future of this industry, we think there's like two main ways by which DeFi has to change and like on-chain credit markets have to evolve. One, we think we need to originate and tokenize and bring on-chain high quality, investment grade, fixed income assets. It's not going to be the case that this new stablecoin holder in Indonesia wants to like hold credit originated against a Bored Ape. Like that is not how people preserve their wealth, and that's not how like credit functions for normal people. And the second thing that needs to happen in DeFi is we have to take these primitives and these new assets that people are tokenizing and package them up in products that like ordinary people use and consume. Like I would bet that nobody in this room here today actually goes to like the corporate bond market, buys like a Coinbase investment grade bond, and like matches its maturity against their liquidity needs. That's just like too complex, too peer-to-peer. It's not how finance works in TradFi, and it won't be how DeFi works in the future. So these two things really need to happen: better assets and more consumable, user-friendly products. And so how do we get there? The way we think about it is that in TradFi, the people that do this job of origination and structuring are these like financial institutions that act as intermediaries in markets, like banks like JP Morgan, and more so like these mutual funds and money managers like BlackRock. Like these are foundational aspects of the economy that help it scale. And at NashPoint, we often talk about ourselves as being an on-chain banking system. And when we say that, what we mean is that we want to create DeFi native smart contract versions of these institutions, but for the on-chain economy. And so what do we think, like what does it mean to create like an on-chain bank? We think it's like four main things. One, accepting deposits. Two, issuing LP tokens that represent those deposits. Three, being able to invest those deposits across a variety of like existing assets on chain, but also originating more assets to the blockchain. And finally, being able to trade those assets to maintain a balance sheet that reflects the needs and the promises made to the depositors. And none of this really exists on chain in any meaningful capacity. And it is all like new infra that we need to build out for this new age and epoch of our industry. What's really cool though about DeFi is that we can take some of these functions and other things like securitization, which currently involve like 1,000 people at a bank and like multiple intermediaries, and compress it into like a 200 line of code module that like a credit manager using like NashPoint can leverage in 2 transactions. And that's a big deal. So when we think about the future of credit markets and the future of DeFi, we see this world in which we form capital around this emerging like saver-based stablecoin holders, use that to tokenize more assets and bring them on chain, and create these more like efficient markets on chain around those credit markets that just function so much better than whatever exists, not only in DeFi, but in TradFi as a whole. And so when we think about the future, we think the future of credit, global credit is on chain. That's what we're excited about, and that's what we're building towards at NashPoint. Thank you for your time.